Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase podcast. Today we are talking with Celia Barsby. Celia is a creative visionary and now your cosmic soul guide. She creates a safe space for women seeking inner joy and connections to their own wisdom. And she's also the author of The Garden Party. So excited to have you here, Celia. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you for having me. I feel like I'm in a cauldron in alchemy. It's really exciting. Combine that energy with gardens, and who knows where we will go.
Yeah, you got the whole fairy look going on with your magical hair and your pink shirt. I was just telling you before we started recording, I feel like you should have wings and a wand just to complete the
maybe
picture.
Maybe they're there and you just can't see them.
Yeah, maybe they are. For those of you listening in, just picture them, okay? So, how'd you get where you're at? What's your story? Tell us all about you.
Okay, what's my story? Wow, how did I get here? So I always, where does the story really start? And I guess my story starts when I was 10 years old, living in a beautiful house I had a very idyllic childhood, which was beautiful. And I played for hours in the garden. That was my happy place, climbing trees, and all of that. And my dad very, very suddenly died of a heart attack. And so my world was literally turned upside down. And I have learned over the years of the trauma that caused. Back in the 70s, that was, well, you just got on with it, didn't you? It wasn't recognised. There was no particular support or counselling. That just wasn't a thing. And so it was years later that I really was able to name that experience as trauma and understand the impact. So the impact was, I talk about the wounded stories. Your deepest wound is your greatest medicine. Because what happened for me was that experience changed the way I saw the world. I keep touching my glasses. It's a filter that we start to see the world through. And here's the filter that was created for me. I was an only child, therefore it was all my fault. The people you love will leave you. That was my experience. And so that's how I began to see relationships. So I wasn't going to let anybody get really close to me, because my experience was the people you love will leave you. And so that impacted all of my relationships. Now, let me just say that this is with hindsight. At the time, I didn't realize that. This is a lot of work, a lot of processing has allowed me to change the way I see the world and understand those filters. So the years go by, I experienced, I got married because that's what you did. I did what I did what it was expected of me. I was still in the generation that, you went to school. I did go to university. You got married and then you had kids, and it was in that order.
Yes.
Very much,
God
I
forbid you try to change it up.
Oh, no, not at all.
Parents
No,
would.
so we act the good girl. But there was there's the rebel inside. I talk about reawakening to your soul purpose as being your authentic, rebellious, quirky self. And of course, the rebel for many women has been suppressed over many generations. So I did, I did the thing, and I got married. I had 3 beautiful children, and there came a point in my life when I went, well, is that it? There must be something else. There must be more. And I then went through the another trauma, which was divorce. And again, that old story starts to play out. The people you love will leave you. But I was going, no, this is my awakening. This is my breakthrough. When I've experienced depression, which the world calls a breakdown. I came to realize that no, that was my breakthrough. That was when I began to wake up. And then I worked in education. I've sort of been a teacher probably all my life. No, let's make that definitely all my life, because I used to play teachers. That was my favorite game. I had dolls and teddies lined up, and I had a blackboard and the whole thing, and I used to teach, and that's what I love doing. I still love doing that. And I was working with some young people in a college, really helping them to think about their careers. What would they like to do the thing that lights them up. And then I had that powerful realization that actually I needed to respond to that call. And I remember going to my husband and saying, I'm not going to resign today. And he went, okay. And because he sensed there was an and I said, but I am going to resign after Christmas. And that's what I did, so that I could work with women who have similar experiences to me. I've been through a number of life experiences. I've reached now what I love to call my crone years, because I quite like that idea of being a crone. Lots of people go, oh,
I embrace it. I love this part of my life.
best years of my life, and really share with women the wisdom and medicine. And that's really where Garden Party comes in. That's, I wrote my story, and through that emerged, and I'm going to say that deliberately, what emerged was the wisdom from a gold charm bracelet that my dad had bought my mom. And those 15 charms have created the cohesive transformational program that I take women through.
So, wow, that's so beautiful. I love that it's connected to a bracelet, and the bracelet has so much meaning for you.
Absolutely. Oh, yes. There go the chills. Yeah. Yes, goosebumps all over. Yeah. Yeah. So that's sort of, how I got to here.
Lovely. Just lovely.
Thank you.
I'm still stuck on the gold bracelet and your 15 steps. So how do you help women, and how does that look in your coaching practice? Because you are a coach.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Yeah. So I talk, I say I'm a transformational coach, because, and a friend kindly reminded me that I'm quite a disruptor. I do tend to turn people's views upside down. That's what I've done in my life. And I think, because my life was turned upside down by that experience, and we we experience trauma in many different ways, but it's interesting how many of the women I work with have experienced childhood bereavement, have been through divorce, have got to that point in their life when they say, well, now what am I going to do? Recognizing that, we're not going to be tucked in a corner and wear beige. Now we want to light up the world with our passion, with our wisdom, what we have learned, and sharing that and empowering other women. So that's, and I take my clients through those 15 steps, whether that's through the online program that I have, or whether it's working on a more in-depth personal way on a one-to-one basis, which is very powerful.
It is very powerful. So most of your coaching is done online then?
Yes, absolutely. I think I think the whole COVID lockdown experience, that turned the world upside down and opened it up so that we can work energetically with people through this, who would have thought that we would ever be doing that? And because we would have said, well, I have to be with somebody in the same room to sort of connect with them. And you go, no, I've been working, I feel that energy even when I'm talking on podcasts like this. I connect with the host and you go, no, I can just feel all of that energy swirling around. I think we were so, maybe we were very limited in what we thought we could do. And so, yes, I work online, I work through Zoom, which does mean that I can connect with women all over the world, which is beautiful.
It is so beautiful that I know COVID was meant for evil, but I think it just turned out to be a blessing all the way around. So many people have been able to step into their power and really get exposure for themselves and what they're doing. And it's just like, it's why I named the show the way I did. I was very disillusioned with life before COVID. And I really thought that we were not like headed for the cliff. I thought we'd gone over the cliff and we're waiting for the hard landing as a world together. And I blamed it on the New World Order. And it just the COVID was just like rip the Band-Aid off and people started popping up and just like little bright lights all over the world.
It was a signal. Yeah.
And it was worldwide. It wasn't just like in one country.
Yeah.
Whole world just like lit up.
Yes. Yeah. And it's a wake up, isn't it? It's a wake up and people started really evaluating what was important in life. What really matters, what lights you up. We don't want to have to keep going through the same old all the time. And that's what's exciting. And it's not without its challenges. When we move through that transformation, I talk, one of the charms is called going through the mill. And the actual charm is a little golden water mill, so an old-fashioned mill. And of course, that, when we go through the mill, the process of going through the mill is challenging. I use the symbolism and the imagery of that water mill, and it is noisy, and it is messy, and it is dusty, and a little bit smelly, and there may be rats. It's hard work. But if you are going to convert and change and transmute, that alchemy, that word wants to come in, that transformation of grain into flour, then you've got to do the work. And that's where the transformation is. And of course, we have the beautiful symbolism of the water mill, and the water and being in flow allows the water and that mill wheel to turn, and resilience. You have the pressure. There's so much that we learn when we move through those times that we talk about in worldism, or we're going through a tough time, and you go, well, that's where the transformation can happen if we choose to accept it. If we choose to accept that and go, right, okay, oh, what am I learning? What am I learning here? Because I think the whole journey is a learning one. I think that's what we're here to do.
We are here to live and to learn and to share and to be connected and to create this beautiful tapestry where everyone is significant and everyone is beautiful in their own thread is amazing. But they're one piece of a much larger picture. And if we can appreciate each individual thread, it makes the entire picture just so much more spectacular, in my opinion.
I love that you're talking about threads, because I'm going to read you a quote. I use the symbolism of so I wear a red thread on my wrist, which is the red thread connection. And I'm just going to find the page in the book which talks there. There's a Chinese proverb. Okay, but this is the way my book works, by the way. It says, let's do this one. We're going to talk about this one, and I go, and I have to respond quite quickly and go, oh yes, you're right, okay. So the red thread is found in many cultures. Here's the page. I'm just going to read from that page at the moment. The red thread is found in many cultures and traditions. It is often connected to the red tent, the hem of the garment, the thread of the sacred mother, and many other ideas. And the Chinese legend says this: we are all connected before birth by an invisible red thread to all that we are meant to meet in this life. This thread may stretch and tangle, but it is never broken. And we accept responsibility for our piece of the red thread. So I love that thread that is, running through this conversation. And when we understand that we are responsible for our piece, then actually that's incredibly releasing and freeing, because we're not worrying, not going, oh, what about that bit? And well, I've got to do that as well. You go, no, I just have to look after my piece. It's very much, I love the symbolism of gardens, obviously. And you're going, I just have to look after my garden, and that then feeds into the bigger picture.
It's so empowering when you recognize that you don't have to be responsible for everybody else, even your children. Your children have their own mission and they are their own thread, and they're on their own journey. And I believe that they've picked the journey that they're going to be on, and the traumas that I've inflicted on them, trust me, I know I've inflicted on them all. And I got plenty to show for it. But it's what they're going to do with the trauma.
And it's, I love that sort of topic has come up, because I too, we've not met before. We met randomly, and you go, well, nothing's random. It's that red thread connection. We are destined to meet and have this conversation. That we sign up in this life for our soul to grow. And for me, I talk about finding your soul purpose. What is it you're here to cause and create in this lifetime? And imagine going to school and always being given the same thing, and you just keep doing the same thing, and you never get stretched, you never learn anything new. And of course, we learn by the things we can't do. We learn through our shadow. We learn through the trauma, the difficulties, the challenges, because that's how we learn as humans. I imagine a world where we just learned. I can't even imagine it, because that's what we're here to do in this human experience that we're having.
So you were talking. You were talking about the kernels of wheat, which are hard. Most people don't realize wheat is it's a seed, and it's hard. It's got a hard shell on it.
Yeah,
And in order to make it into flour, it has to be ground. And when you're talking
exactly.
about the watermill in the old days, it
Mm,
the watermill actually made the stone go around a crucible that
yes.
ground these hard kernels into soft white. It's more like brown because it had the bran
Yeah,
in it still.
yeah.
Our white wheat is very processed, and
Mm,
it has lost the germ and the bran pieces of the shell and the the actual seed part that is what sprouts life. Um,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
so
And and it is that sense of being cracked open. And for those of us that have, and there are still times, there are still, periods that we move through where we go, oh, I'm going through another cracking open, because there's that there's a deeper awakening that wants to come, a deeper spiritual understanding. And as you say, it is the flour that makes the bread which sustains life, and that wheat germ which creates the new life. Oh, I mean, it's just so exciting.
and it goes back to your garden theme too,
Yeah,
because wheat
yeah,
wheat is it's a plant and it grows,
mm,
and that kernel of wheat, if you can sprout it, we do weird things around here because we're country folk, but you can sprout wheat seeds, and then
yes,
once they start sprouting, you can dry them and grind that and make bread out of that, which I've also done. And it's much
wow,
more powerful because a lot of the energy of the seed is in the bursting forth of life. So when you
yes,
eat things that are sprouted, you just sprouted, you're being able to absorb that energy into your
yeah,
body. It's
yeah. Oh,
there's a magic element to that.
yes, yeah, yeah. Yes, and it's that initial that first growth. And it is, we there's something that wants to come about. We get so impatient with, well, we want to do this, and seasons want to I'm feeling called to talk about the seasons of life that we move through, because here in the UK, we're about to go in, at time of recording, we're about to go into winter and into that slower, darker place. And of course, if we don't do that, if we try and keep going and going, oh well, we've got to we don't have the same energy as we do in the summer. And if we don't do that, then we burn out. And I speak from experience. I've, yes, hands up, who tried to keep going, do the same thing all year round, and you go, no. If we don't allow those seeds to rest, we don't allow the bulbs. I've got bulbs in my garden that have been resting all summer, and they will start to come to life in the early spring. But I've not insisted that they keep growing all year. And that whole, the whole imagery around planting seeds in the dark, in the mud, in the mucky places, that's where you plant. That's where you start to, and allowing things to germinate. There's some
And the
interesting words want to come in.
germination process, even that, it's
Yeah,
absorbing the water. It has to soak up a bunch of water
yeah, yeah.
first, and then the germination process happens.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's, yes, there's some beautiful. I mean, this is why I think, the garden imagery, nature is just never ending, a never ending source of inspiration to me.
I used to think of I love to garden also. And I've gone from, you have to have rows to my yard is a garden. I don't let my husband mow until the flowers are done blooming in the grass, which is
Yeah.
like mostly weeds. But I get
Wildflower.
purple flowers, and I get a bunch of different kinds of purple flowers that just come up with the grass as it's coming up, and
Oh,
I let the
lovely.
grass all go to seed before we mow it the first time. And I have
Yeah.
all these things that I do with my yard, but I love the garden in that it teaches us so many things.
Mm.
It teaches us how to we can live in communion with it, or we can fight with it. Like I used to try to fight against the weeds. Now I
Hmm.
live in communion with some of them.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have areas that I will work really hard to protect other plants around, but
yeah. A beautiful symbolism is I have tried many times to grow things that don't want to grow in my garden. And I go, oh, well, I really like those plants, you know. And how would we do this in life? We go, oh, I really like what that person's doing. Well, I'd like to do that. And you go, yeah, but that's not part of your garden. And when I actually stopped trying to grow things that were not right for my soil and my climate, you go, oh, that's really interesting. The other things really thrive. So let's grow the things that are thriving in our gardens rather than to mimic somebody else's. That's a lesson I have learned over the years.
I love that lesson, and I can relate to it. And I think that was kind of where I was trying to go with my other comment, where you just sometimes you can have an idea, and you definitely need to have an idea of what you want,
Sure.
but sometimes just stepping back a little bit and seeing what's coming. We have a saying around here: stuff comes up, volunteer. It's like I had a bumper crop of tomatillas, and I planted no tomatillas this year. They sprung up everywhere. Um, from last year or the year before, I guess, when I planted them, there were a bunch
Yeah.
of them, and the seeds moved all over the place. I have lettuce that grows in my grass sometimes. I have
I
I
love
have garden beds, but there was a patch of lettuce. It's like, hey,
it. Brilliant. I love that. Yes, and it's, that, what is growing in my garden, what is thriving in my garden. That's, and I think sometimes we can, because there's beautiful symbolism of the plants, and when I go out in the gardens, and listen to the birds. I've got some magpies who visit, who are quite noisy and chattery, and sometimes if I'm they always support me. So if I'm having a bit of a, oh my goodness, I don't know what I'm doing, or I've lost, that little bit of connection. All of a sudden, there's the magpie, and I go, right, okay, I need to stop and I need to listen. I have a squirrel who visits. I'm going to assume I don't know if it's a he or a she, but they visit, and that to me is a symbol. I need to play more. That squirrel is a very powerful symbol for play and fun, plus all of the resourcing and all of that. And so my garden supports me in so many ways like that. But yeah, grow what, have a look around your garden. What is growing, what is thriving, what needs to rest, what needs to be released, what needs to be pruned, where do you need to do some weeding? Yeah.
yeah. And are the weeds beneficial? Are they serving a purpose? Because sometimes weeds can serve a purpose, even if you think that you want something else to go there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe.
It's, yes, absolutely. I mean, and actually, what is a weed? A weed is just something that you decide shouldn't be in that place. I too had a little patch of wildflower garden and long grass that I persuaded my husband not to mow, and he's going, oh well, it's not going to look very neat, it's not going to look very tidy. And fortunately, my very intuitive cat decided that she quite liked it in there. So she would go and she would curl up and make a little bed in this long grass. And where I was about to fail, because the cat liked it, then it didn't get it didn't. Oh well, if she likes it, then we'll leave it. So it's beautiful because there's bugs and all sorts of insects and wildlife that come. So yes, yes, lots and lots of symbolism of the garden.
I love it. It teaches us so much. The closer we get to the dirt, I think the more
Yeah,
connected we are to
yeah,
ourselves and to others. Because
sure.
we
Yeah,
just
yeah. And there's a whole charm, which is all about the shadow and the muddy. I talk about my experience of when I moved through depression for the second time. And of course, I then recognized it and I went, oh no, I'm, going to slide down this muddy slope and oh, what's going to happen? And I actually had creativity as one of the tools in my medicine basket by then. And so I started, went for walks and I painted with the mud that was around me and sort of, dipped my finger in the muddy pools. And I created my own muddy colours. And then I went, why, we went on holiday and we went to some mud baths and that was really fun. That was hilarious and cleansing. And so the symbolism of mud became a powerful symbol to say, actually, that's where the transformation can go. The beautiful phrase, no mud, no lotus. The lotus grows when it's got its roots deep in the mud, deep in that deep connection with Mother Earth.
love that. I love that. How I don't know. Gardens, trees, plants, they bring us so much. Nutrition, air.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we are so connected to them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
But just to turn our focus to them and to use them as a guide for creating the life that we want to live.
And I think in it's
magic.
the rhythm I talk about create your own, creating your magic, sort of making a wish, but using that with the rhythm of the moon cycles and the rhythm of nature rather than trying to fight against it. As women, we're very used to cycles and when our energy is high and when we need to rest. And for generations, we haven't been able or given permission to listen to our bodies in that way. So we have to keep going, and then we get accused of not being, on it all of the time. Okay, well, yeah, that's probably a whole other conversation. And I love work. The more I've worked with the moon cycles and the phases of the moon, then you start to really see how manifesting works because you're creating an alignment and with the universe. So yeah, that's another little charm.
Goes right back to the garden again, because there's times during the moon cycle that it's better to plant in than other times.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. And the ancients knew that. We've lost. Well, I don't think we've lost the wisdom, but it's got a bit buried. But I think it's beginning to
Making a
surface.
comeback.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Yeah.
It used to be that it wasn't modern to garden and it wasn't modern to, grow your own food or make your own
Yeah.
food. It was, the TV dinners. And I think our moms were kind of sold a bill of goods, honestly, that they weren't enough, that they needed to be a certain way. And if they weren't that way, and that, there was something fundamentally wrong with them, if they weren't modern, and they didn't embrace the modern stuff, which was really just a ploy to sell them crap.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes. And there is that, it feeds into that, you're not good enough and then if you're not doing that, then we translate that into I'm not enough. And a lot of the work I do is around changing and those limiting beliefs and the old stories, and turning that around and going, no, we are enough. I don't have to do anything to be amazing. I just am amazing. I love that affirmation that is linked to my keys.
Yes, I love that too. I know that you offer people a free gift about the start of their journeys. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I'd love to. This is a thank you for having me. It's a bit like a garden. You've got to have a party bag, haven't you? If you come to the garden party, and so I have a little free gift. You will receive the Start of the Journey workbook, because I am a teacher and I ask you to do some work, because that's where we experience the change. So the start of the journey really gets you thinking about, where am I now? Where do I want to go? More, how do I want to feel? Where do I want, what do I want to feel like a year from now? And I talk about, if you think about a GPS system, sat nav, we call it in the UK, but a GPS system, the first thing you put in is your destination. This is where I want to be, but in my terms, it's how do I want to feel in a year's time? This time next year, 12 months time, same season, because I think that's important, to acknowledge that seasonal feeling. And then you would enter, where are you now? You go, oh, okay, well, I want to be here, but I'm over here at the moment. And then I talk about the resources. How are you going to get there? Are you resourced for your journey? For me, if I'm going on a journey, I like to make bacon sandwiches. That for me is, I'm going on a journey. And we have, are you resourced? Are you fueled up? Or has your car run out of fuel and you're broken down at the side of the road? So I get you through journaling prompts to actually reflect on all of that. And then there's an invitation to come and have a chat in my virtual garden about what comes up for you. So that's where that's my gift to you, to encourage you to think about the start of your journey, because often we feel a sense of dissatisfaction, or a pull. It's a tug of, I want to be somewhere else, I want to feel something different, but we don't know how to get started. And so that's my gift.
Party favors.
Party bags, party favors. Others, and I've learned a new word. Yeah, absolutely. Love
So,
it.
Celia, what's the one thing that you'd like to leave the audience with today?
Well, I'm going to go back to the phrase, that your deepest wound is your greatest medicine. That is where my book starts. And it's really interesting, actually. That's what I thought. That's what I thought I was going to say. My book has other ideas. So here's the quote. That is important. That is important. I will continue that we often don't understand, we don't realize what it is that we have that is special, and that's often come through a wounded story. But I'm going to read you a little poem, that this is what wants to be seen and heard in this particular podcast. Okay. You were born to spread your wings, climb up high on the warm winds, born to see the world and touch the breeze, to follow where it's going, to fly just like an eagle. You were born to spread your wings. So that's my invitation, is this is what we're invited to do, to fly.
I love that. And I am inspired by your ability to just let the book tell you what should be said.
I've learned. I've learned to listen to my book.
So gorgeous. Thank you so much, Celia, for joining me today. This has been a great adventure.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Jill. It's been brilliant.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the You World Order or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.